Hi, this is Usha. Welcome to Rathod's IAS classes. Today in this lecture, we are going to see current affairs of 4th August 2022. So let's get started with our discussion and let us try to see today's quote. So before that, what you are going to get after seeing this session completely. So first, we are going to discuss quote and we are going to discuss editorials from Hindu. And apart from that, we are also going to see some important current affairs, and even we are also including some other articles from different sources like Indian Express, Business Standards, so which are important from our UPSC point of view. We are collecting from that as well. And next one is we are going to discuss one static topic under this topic of day, and at last we are going to give some prelims practice questions and also mains questions from this current affairs, and finally I will be also discussing about some vocabulary as well. So these all the things that you are going to get after completely watching this session. So now let us have a discussion on the quote. So this quote, it mainly talks about the result. So all that we are is the result of what we have thought. So what of the result that we are getting, so that is depend upon our thought process. Okay, so here what achievements that you are getting in your life, it is based on your thoughts and as well as positive attitudes, and always miracles that happens in your mind. So you have to think high and you have to move on. And one thing I want to say here is, so never take rest until you achieve your goal. So this is the meaning of this quote which is given by Buddha. So now let us try to see today's editorial. So first topic, it is about demographic dividend. So I hope you know about what is this demographic dividend. So we already discussed about this topic number of times. So now let us try to understand why this demographic dividend is easy news. And actually you know that recently there is a one report regarding population that released, and after that article which has been released, so there are number of reports which are seen, and those number of reports which mainly talks about what are the challenges that we are facing. So here this article, which is mainly based on that United Nations report on world's population prospects, that is world's population prospects report of 2022, and what the data said, and we need to know about what is this demographic dividend and what are the other reports which mainly said, and apart from that we need to know what we have to do now, that is a way forward. So this article is important from your GS paper 3 under your economy point of view, and this topic is important from your mains especially. So from prelims you can expect, right, so which of the following organization released recent world prospects report, world's population prospect reports 2022. So this question you can expect from the prelims, and the rest of the thing which is important from your mains. So what are the, we are going to discuss the data, so please make a note of that data also, so that will become handy whenever you are writing mains answer and even sometimes in essay. So now let us try to see why it is in news. So recently United Nations released report. So name of that report is World Population Prospects 2022 report. And what are the highlights of this report? So this report said that so world's population is going to touch 8 billion this year, and it will rise to 9.8 billion in 2050. So first we are talking about world's population. So world's population is going to reach 8 billion this year, and by 2050 it is going to reach 9.8 billion. Okay, and one more thing which mainly highlighted here is, so there will be the population rise in India, and this population of India, it is going to surpass even China. So India will become the first most populous country in the world. So these are the two important things that you have to remember regarding this world's population prospects report. And if you are talking about India's potential workforce, so here India's potential workforce means the people who are present in the work age, okay, work group population. So here India's potential workforce, it is going to rise by 885 million to 1.08 billion people in the next 2 decades. So in the next 2 decades, working age group in India, it is going to be increased. So it is one of the asset for our country. So here one more thing here is, so when we are having about 1 billion people for a half century, so here we are getting new workers into our economy, and if they are trained and educated, so this will be very much helpful for the country for the economic development. So here you have to remember about, so which age groups comes under workforce. So this is your homework. Already number of times I discussed. So which age groups they comes under this workforce? Let me know in the comment box. And whenever I am asking questions, so please try to do some research. That will be helpful ultimately for you. So yesterday's questions I didn't get any comments regarding the answers of questions that I asked. So try to give your answers. Okay, so don't forget this. So India's potential workforce, which mainly which is going to rise from 885 million to 1.08 billion in the next 2 decades, that is in the next 20 years. So we need to focus on training, and as well as we need to focus on education as well as skills. So in the next 50 years, there will be an Indian summer that redraws the face of global economic power. That means in the next 2 decades, we can see there is increasing of working age population. But in the next 50 years, what happened? This working age population, they are going to become old age. So here we are going to see some redraw in the face of global economic power. So what are the development we want? So we can do in the next 2 decades, that is in the 20 years. So there is one report that is McKinsey and Company reports. It said that India a turning point. Okay, so this report believes that there is a new trend which started in India, like we are moving towards digitalization, we are moving towards automation, that is we have started using artificial intelligence, and we are mainly focusing on supply chains. We are shifting on supply chains. That means we are not only dependent on a single country for our raw materials, so we are mainly focusing on the different countries and we are diversifying this. And this one is we are focusing on urbanization, we are focusing on rising of income of people and demographic shift. Okay, so there is going to increase of working age group of population within next 20 years. So in this way, here we need to focus on sustainability, we need to focus on health, we need to focus on safety. Okay, so here that will going to create about $2.5 trillion of economic value in 2030. And here, because of this automation, because of this digitization, urbanization, shifting of supply chains, so that is going to create about 112 million jobs. So out of this, 30% of non-farmer workforce in 2030. So this is a report which is talking about the future of India. Okay, so because of digitization, because of shifting of supply chains, urbanization, we are focusing on rising of incomes of people and demographic shift. So we are going to create dollars, that is $2.5 trillion of economic value by 2030, and we are also going to create 112 million jobs in the many sectors. Out of this, 30% of jobs that can be created in the non-farm workforce itself. And one more important report here is released on May 14, 2022. So it says that as pandemic recedes, so because of declining of this global pandemic and impact of global pandemic, so 4 pillars, they are very much essential for the growth in the next decade. So what are those 4 pillars? You have to know that, and this is a very important point. And those pillars are, the first one is we need a single national market, and we need to focus on expansion of our industry. Okay, and whenever there is improving of manufacturing, so that will have the capacity to increase or to generate more amount of jobs. And next one is here we need to focus on this renewable energy, and we are also focusing on supply chains away from China, and we need to continuously we are seeing emergence in this information technology and high technology, welfare, safety net, etc. So here these are some important areas that we need to focus. First one is we need to come up with a single national market. We need to go for expansion of our industry or the manufacturing sector, and we need to focus on this renewable energy such that we can decrease this impact of climate change on the people. And next one is we can move away from the supply chains, away from this China, and we need to continuously emergent in this information technology sector, and we need to focus on high technology, welfare, safety net as well. So these are some important areas that we need to focus. And one more important article in the Financial Times, that article mainly said that yes, we are going to have the demographic dividend in India in the future, that is in the next 2 decades, but we are facing some challenges. So those challenges are there is no proper infrastructure in the country, and we have poor skilled workforce. So because of these 2 challenges, yes, that will have some negative impact. Impaired means negative impact on the growth of the country. So these are the some important reports. And now let us try to talk about India as an open society. Yes, as you are compare with, if you are comparing India with China, China it is like a closed society, but India it is an open society. Okay, so here because of this open society, we are having chances of better position to transform ourselves. So this is one important thing. And even one more thing that you have to focus is in this information technologies. So now it is available in India, and internet they run, okay, on have matured exponentially. So what happened because of increasing of internet usage and because of increasing of digital technology in India, yes, we can focus on this information technology such that we can create huge amount of jobs. Okay, and finally here author says that yes, if you want to write, okay, if you want to bring the best, bring means nothing but squeeze, if you want to bring the best out of the demographic dividend, India needs to invest massively in the quality of school, and we need to invest on the higher education and even healthcare sectors. Okay, so these are the sectors like education, quality school and healthcare. They had been neglected in our country, and we need to now focus on these three sectors where there is no proper focus. Okay, so because of this we can achieve the good benefits of this demographic dividend, or else this demographic dividend will going to become demographic disaster. So now let us move on to next topic. It is regarding Indian Ocean. Okay, how to maintain peace and stability in this Indian Ocean. So title says bring back the Doe route. Okay, Doe it is nothing but the ships. So now this article is important from your international relations, which comes under your GS paper 2, and this topic is exclusively important from your mains, not from your prelims. So now why it is in news, so why we are talking about the peace and stability in this Indian Ocean region. So because recently one Chinese military vessel, it's scheduled to call to this Hambantota port of Hambantota port of the Sri Lanka. So a Chinese military vessel scheduled to call at the Sri Lankan Hambantota port. So because of this, Indian government which mainly showed some concerns regarding India's security, and also raised the issue with the Sri Lankan government as well. So as you all know that Sri Lankan government which is mainly facing debt and also distress because of mega infrastructure project that came up by this Hambantota port. So in Hambantota port here, Sri Lankan government came up with this development of this port, and this port which is mainly developed by China. So Hambantota port, because of this debt, Sri Lanka did not repay the loan to this China. So this property which is under the control of this Chinese corporation now. So because of this, it has been swapped. So what is the meaning of swap? We are going to see in the vocabulary. So you have come across number of agreements like currency swap agreement, that is exchange. So here because of this Sri Lanka didn't repay the loan, here Chinese they took control over this Hambantota port. And if you are talking about Chinese interest in this Indian Ocean region, so day by day there is increasing of this Chinese interest in Indian Ocean, which is mainly seen. For example, you can talk about One Belt One Road initiative. You can talk about Chinese String of Pearls initiative as well. So if you are talking about this One Belt and One Road initiative, which mainly has two components. So first component it is like maritime Silk Route, and second component is Silk Route economic belt, right? So here Chinese they came up with this One Belt One Road initiative, especially to increase the flow of trade and as well as investment, such that it can promote economic cooperation and as well as connectivity between Asia, West Asia, Africa and Europe. So whenever it is having a good connectivity, automatically the trade will be increased. So whenever the trade is increased means that will lead to economic prosperity of that country. So here from some years onwards, from some thousands years onwards, so we had been experiencing centralizing of these trade routes in this Indian Ocean region. So in the last 1000 years, so many powers they had been emerged, and they tried to capture and they tried to centralize trade routes, okay, and they came up with dealing with the same merchant families of Indian Ocean, okay. For example, families who are prospering in this Arabian Gulf, families who have been prospering in this East Africa and Indian Peninsula, Bay of Bengal, Sri Lanka, Maldives and other small island states. So here from thousands of years onwards. So some emerging powers, they frequently attempted to capture and to centralize these trade routes, and they came with the dealing with the families in these countries which are mainly sharing boundary with this Indian Ocean region. So for centuries onwards, we also came up with Indian Ocean navigators, ship owners and merchants. They were actually the custodians of the trade routes, okay, in this region. So actually if you're talking about in Gujarat and in Malabar coast to Bay of Bengal on the north of the island states, so here south of the ocean, so hundreds of the ports and the thousands of families, they linked by the navigation and trade, marriage and love. So especially to gain centrality, okay, centralization in this trade routes. So many a times we can see the families which are linked with the navigation. So with that family, so other people, they will be having trade, they will be having marriage, they will be having love, okay. So because of all these things, they are used as a weapons, especially to centralize this Indian Ocean routes. And if we are talking about foreigners invasion in India, so we studied about Portuguese invasion, we studied about Dutch and Britishers, right? So whenever this Portuguese, they came into India, so they also brought some advantages, like they improved the boat building capabilities in the Indian Ocean port cities, and also the courts took away the trade from the local families. So one important cause of concern here is, yes, Portuguese, they improved this boat building capabilities, but there is also one course that took away the trade from the local families. And in the Dutch, here especially East India Company and later the British Empire, they went on capturing and colonizing these port courts, so port cities. So what happened? So once they came up with the building of this ship, etc., on this coastal areas, and later on Dutch and East India Company, they came up and they simply captured and they simply colonized these port cities. And the British colonial rule, which also consolidated cargo in the several bigger port cities as well. So because of this, it gave some opportunity for the local traders to freely trade in these Indian Ocean states. So this is the one advantage through this British colonial rule. So here, if you're talking about these Indian Ocean ports now, so recently a Chinese also came up with one important aspect of consolidating of Indian Ocean trade routes under this Belt and Road Initiative, okay. So under this Belt and Road Initiative, a Chinese which is mainly making some attempts to consolidate this Indian Ocean trade routes. And if you're talking about wherever it is going and wherever it is going for development of port, for example Hambantota port, for example Gwadar port, so those countries, they are getting into this debt trapped or sovereign debt. So Sri Lanka has gone through default, and even East African port countries also facing this similar sovereign default, and even Pakistan also. So wherever it is going and developing these ports, so that area which is mainly entering into this debt trap. So here there are many attempts they are made to consolidate and to centralize these economic activities in these hub ports. But what happened? Because of non-performance of infrastructure, that leads to breaking of local economies and as well as livelihoods of the people. And now let us try to see what is the way forward, what can be done. So we can go for revitalizing of these regional trade networks, and it is one of the advantage of not only this port city economies, but even it also helpful to maintain peace and stability in this Indian Ocean region. So we need to focus on revitalizing of regional trade networks. So this is about this topic. And now let us try to see the map. So this is our Indian Ocean, right? So if you see the countries which are sharing boundary with Indian Ocean, so here we have Mozambique, Tanzania, Kenya, Somalia, here Yemen, Oman, here Iran, Pakistan, here we have India, here we have Bangladesh, here we have Burma, and here we have Malaysia, Indonesia, and it is one of the important choke point, that is Strait of Malacca, right? So it want to bypass the Strait of Malacca, that is China. So if we talk about Chinese string of pearls theory, so Chinese came up with this development at this Pakistan's Gwadar port, and Bangladesh Chittagong port, and Sri Lanka's Hambantota port, and Myanmar's port, okay. So there are some important ports, for example Chinese Hainan Islands, etc. So this is the concept of string of pearls. So what is the concept which mainly came up by India to oppose, okay, to counter this Chinese string of pearls? So let me know that, okay, that concept in the comment box. And now let us try to see next topic. It is regarding United Nations Security Council's committee, and this committee is going to meet to have a discussion on this counterterrorism. So this article is important from your international relations, which comes under GS paper 2. So this topic is important from both your mains and as well as prelims. So if you see title, it says that India to host United Nations Security Council meet on counterterrorism. So if we're talking about context, why it is in news. So India will host diplomats and officials from all 15 countries of United Nations Security Council. Okay, so from this United Nations Security Council, so here India, which mainly going to host this meeting with 15 countries. So those countries include, for example, China, Russia, and as well as US. So here this is one of the special meeting on terrorism, and this is going to be conducted in Delhi itself in the month of October. So if you're talking about details, it mainly says that, so this meeting of counter-terrorism committee, so which is mainly done by India, and actually India it is sharing this year, okay, this year chairmanship of United Nations Security Council, and we are mainly focusing on some important challenges that we are facing, that is terror financing, cyber threats, and also use of drones. So these are three important areas of focus of this meeting. So if we're talking about highlights of this meet, here Government of India, which mainly expected to talk about the threats from Pakistan, threats from the Afghanistan across this cross-border threats. Okay, so we are going to talk about cross-border threats from this Pakistan and Afghanistan to India. Okay, and next one here is India has been pushing for United Nations members to adopt comprehensive convention on international terrorism, and in this meet we are going to raise this issue. And next one here is the event will also showcase India's role as a victim of terrorism as well as a country at forefront of global counter-terrorism efforts. So here this event that is also showcasing about India's role in the victim of terrorism as well. So if we're talking about what are the new challenges that we are facing. So first and the foremost thing here is, as you all know, this terror funding or terror financing, which has been recognized as an important issue, and this issue which is mainly dealt by this Financial Action Task Force, that is FATF. And we are going to build especially some templates, and we need to come up with some code of conduct including financing to the cryptocurrency as well, and the use of drones or terror attacks. So what happened nowadays, this terror funding which is not happening through this money, but it is happening through this cryptocurrency. So here we need to come up with an efficient law, okay, efficient templates and as well as code of conduct regarding how we can address this. And one more important challenge here is the special meetings which is also focusing on the three significant areas. Okay, so here growing use by the member states and increasing the threat of abuse terrorism purposes. For example, we need to focus on internet and social media. So we need to focus on terrorism funding and as well as unmanned aerial vehicles. So if you're talking about internet and social media, here these terrorists, they started using this internet and social media platform and they are recruiting the people. Okay, so because of this, we need to have a proper monitoring on this social media as well, and even terror financing that is happening to this cryptocurrency now. So now I hope you can see one infographic on the screen. It is about what is this United Nations Security Council. So this United Nations Security Council, it is a one of 6 organs of United Nations, and the permanent headquarters of this United Nations located at this New York City. And if you're talking about what are the objectives of this United Nations Security Council, so we need to maintain international peace and as well as stability. So it is one of the important aim of this United Nations Security Council. And if you're talking about the first session of this United Nations Security Council, which was held in 1946. Okay, so now let us try to talk about this committee. What is this committee actually about? So it is Counterterrorism Committee, and this committee established by Security Council Resolution of 1373, and it already adopted unanimously on 28th September 2001 in the wake of this 9/11 terror attacks. And this committee, which mainly having some task that is regarding monitoring this implementation of this resolution 1373 or not, and is also focusing on enhancing their legal and institutional ability. And also it come up with some important steps to criminalize this financing of terrorism. It will also criminalize this freezing any funds Okay, it is also focusing on acts of terrorism, denying all forms of financial support for terrorist group, and it is also focusing on provision of haven, okay, haven substance, and even support of terrorists, and even sharing of information. So in all these areas, so this committee which mainly focus, this committee will have the powers to criminalize this financial terrorism and freezing of any funds, financial support to the terrorist organization, suppressing the provision of haven substance, okay, etc. So these are all the important functions of this committee. And now let us try to see next topic. So this topic is regarding climate pledges. So this topic is important from your environment and ecology. So the data we are going to discuss, that is important from your mains. So if you see context, it mainly says that India ratified pledges. So recently India came up with some pledges in our COP26. So first here is we are going to achieve carbon neutrality by 2070. So whatever the pledges that are made by Prime Minister Modi in this Glasgow event, so we are mainly came up with ratification of those pledges, and that will have an impact on the country's resilience on renewable energy, and even we can also go for effective use of this fossil fuels by 2070. Okay, so if you're talking about details, it mainly says that our Union Cabinet chaired by our Mr. Prime Minister, so they mainly approved to update India's nationally determined contributions. Your cabinet, they mainly decided to come up or to upgrade our nationally determined contributions. So under this they came up with 5 commitments or Panchamrit. So here we are focusing on non-fossil fuels. So India will going to increase its non-fossil fuels capacity to 50 gigawatts by 2030. Okay, so here we are going to use non-fossil fuels. And next one here is India is going to meet 50% of its energy requirements from renewable energy by 2030. So by 50% of energy that we are going to use, that will be from renewable energy, and it will also reduce the total projected carbon emissions by 1 million tons, and how till this 2030. So here we are going for the decreasing of our carbon emissions as well, and here we are going to achieve the target of net zero. The target here is 2070, where there will be no, okay, where there will be no carbon dioxide emitted, okay, from the resources, that is energy sources. So these are the 5 important commitments, that is Panchamrit. So if you're talking about this cabinet approval, so India is committed to reduce this emissions and intensity of these emissions by 45% by 2030. Okay, it is as per 2005 level. So whenever we are going for this 50% of cumulative electric power which installed capacity from this non-fossil fuel based energy resources by 2030. So here it also says that yes, cabinet had been approved some NDCs. Okay, so it said that we are going to achieve, or we are going to reduce, that is to decrease the emissions by 45% in 2030. Okay, when we are comparing with this 2005 levels. And if you are talking about what are these nationally determined contributions, so they are the one important things that we came up during this Paris climate deal. Okay, and they are mainly focusing on long-term achievement or long-term goals. So NDCs, they embodies the efforts by each country to reduce the national emissions and to adapt to the impacts of climate change. So we are focusing on how to reduce this national emissions. And this one here is Paris Climate Agreement, which also requests each country to outline and to communicate their post-2020 climate actions, and this is known as nationally determined contributions. So when we came up with this nationally determined contributions, that is by through this Paris climate deal. So if we are talking about what are the India's targets of this NDCs, first one is we need to reduce the emission intensity by 33 to 35%, that is between 2005 to 2030, and we are focusing on accelerating clean use of clean and renewable energy by 40% by 2030, and there is also increase in the carbon sinks by creating an additional capacity equivalent which is to 2.5 to 3 billion tons of carbon dioxide. Okay, so here India's NDC target will be now updated, that is we are going to decrease this emission intensity by 33 to 35%, and we are going to use clean and renewable energy, so that will be increased to 40%, and we are also increasing this carbon sinks by creating additional capacity as well. So these are some NDC, national determined targets. And now let us try to see next topic. It is regarding data protection bill. So this topic is important from your polity, which mainly comes under your GS paper 2, and this topic will be important from your mains. So now let us try to understand why it is in news. So recently our union government withdraw this personal data protection bill of 2019 from Lok Sabha. So because of this is in news. So what is this data protection bill? So why we need this data protection? So first of all, what is this data protection? Data protection means we are having some laws, we are having some policies, we are having some procedures. So they are mainly seeking to minimize the intrusion into the privacy of an individual. Okay, individual, which mainly caused by data collection or usage of their personal data. Okay, data protection it mainly refers to policies and procedures. They are mainly seeking to minimize intrusion into the privacy of an individual. So this mainly caused by collection and as well as usage of personal data. So if we are talking about why was this bill, okay, which came into existence. So as in 2017, there was one famous case of Supreme Court, that is case Putuswamy case. So in that case, Supreme Court said that here yes, right to privacy, which mainly comes under fundamental right, and this is enshrined in our 21 article of Indian Constitution. Okay, and the court also observed that private and personal data and the facts is an essential aspect of right to privacy. So whenever we want to focus on this right to privacy, especially we need to focus on the privacy of this personal data. And in the 2007, there was also one committee which mainly appointed. Okay, that committee, it is mainly chaired by Justice B.N. C. Krishna. So this committee is called as Justice B.N. C. Krishna Committee. Okay, and they mainly came up with examining of various issues related to data protection in India. And the committee submitted its report along with a draft personal data protection bill 2018. Okay, so this is about this topic. And if you are talking about how is personal data is regulated currently. So now, as of now, the personal data in India, which is mainly controlled by Information Technology Rules of 2011. Okay, so these rules which mainly holds companies which are using the data, which is liable for compensating to the individuals. So in that case, any negligence is happening, so they are going to take some action. So this is about this topic, and now let us try to see a small announcement. So we in Rathod's IS, we came up with this mains answer writing practice course, and this course it is for 1 year, and this is one of the excellent course I can say. Okay, so here we are going to give you the detailed schedule. So based on that you are going to prepare, and daily one question you are going to write the answer, and you have to start the stopwatch, and you have to note the time which took by you, and you have to send that email that PDF to our email ID, that is your answer copy, so that there will be evaluation by the mentors, and that corrected copy again will be sent to your mail, and you have to check feedback, and finally you have to improve. So apart from that, we also provide you live webinars on every Sunday at 7 o'clock, and we also provide you one-to-one mentorship. And next one here is Prelims Test Series 2023. So we are going to launching this Test Series 2023 from August 7th. So please join this course, and the cost is just 3,000 rupees itself. So now let us move on and let us try to see next set of articles. Title says Parliament passes bill to ban funding of weapons of mass destruction. So here you have to know about what are these weapons of mass destructions. So whether any time any country which had used these weapons of mass destruction or not. So here this topic is very important from your international relations and even polity point of view, which comes in your GS paper too. And as an UPSC aspirant, you need to know what is this bill it is about. So now let us try to see why it is in news first. So Parliament had passed this bill, that is the Weapons of Mass Destruction and Their Delivery Systems Amendment Bill 2022. So what is this bill? So this bill, which is mainly focusing to ban funding of these weapons of mass destruction, and even it also giving more powers to center to freeze, to seize and to attach financial assets and as well as economic resource of people who are engaged in this activity. So I want to pose you one question. So whether this type of act which is present earlier or not? Yes, we had this type of act which is mainly focusing on this mass destruction weapons, but it is focusing on just manufacturing. So it is not talking about funding of these weapons and the people who are involved in this. So here, because of this, we need amendment in this weapons of mass destruction. For example, we are going to ban the funding of weapons, and we need to go for freezing and as well as seizing, and to attach financial assets and economic resource of people who are involved in this. So I want to give you one example of this mass destruction, weapons of mass destruction. For example, I hope you have saw this movie, that is Seventh Sense. They are using virus. Okay, that is also a weapon of mass destruction. So here we are already having previous act, that is weapons of mass destruction and their delivery system, prohibition of unlawful activities act. So this act which banned just manufacturing of weapons but is not dealing with the individuals. And what are these weapons of mass destruction? So these are the weapons they are used. Okay, they are used to cause, inflict death and as well as destruction at a massive scale. Okay, so those are called as weapons of mass destruction. So it may be either nuclear bomb, it may be either biological or chemical weapons. So if you're talking about nuclear bomb, here we can talk about a bomb which may be dropped in Japan in Nagasaki and Hiroshima area. So that is also called as the weapons of mass destruction. And even you can talk about Seventh Sense movies. So there we can see virus, okay, virus which mainly spreads, right? So this is the weapons of mass destruction. And if you're talking about what are the key amendments that we are going to come up in this bill. So first we are going to insert section 12A. So this section 12A which mainly says that if any person who is financing any activity, so that activity which will be prohibited under this act. Okay, so here in this way, here we need to confiscate the physical property. We need to come up with some relations. Okay, for example, we can go for freezing of accounts, freezing of assets under this section 12A now. So no person shall finance any activity which is prohibited under this act or under this United Nations Security Council Act of 1947 or any other relevant act. So if there is any activity which should not do, so if any person who is involved in that, so that person will be getting punishment. And next one is prevent financing of such activities. So here for this weapons of mass destruction, so financing should be mainly prevented. Here, because of the central government which is having authority or the power, it will go for freezing, it will go for seizing of the funds. And next one is prevent finances or related services available. So this amendment which is also going to prohibit the persons from making finances or related services which are available for the benefit of other people as well. Other peoples in relation to any activity which is prohibited. So we are going for prevention of finances as well. And if you're talking about one question 2019 UPSC which appeared, that is, in what ways would the ongoing US-Iran nuclear pact controversy affect the national interest of India? So how should India respond to this situation? So you have to write answer for this question within 150 words. And now let us try to say next topic is regarding key lessons from public-private efforts will help us eliminate TB. So this article is talking about public-private partnership in health. So why it is in news? So private sector which is having a great potential. Okay, yes, we should not underestimate the potential of this private sector. So because private sector which is having a great potential and it is going to provide some disruptive innovations for the serving of the public health goals of central and as well as state governments in India. So even according to report of this national prevalence survey, so it mainly says that almost half of the patients with this TB symptoms, they will seek this private sector care but not government sector. So because of this, we can say there is a large potential of this private sector in providing innovation and as well as to seek this public health goals. So if we are talking about private sector engagement programs for the TB, so what are the programs that came up by this private sector? So private sector came up with this private provider interface agency. So actually it is one of the network of private doctors, chemists, laboratories, hospitals, etc. They are trying to provide standard TB care. So this first important thing. So what is the result of this private provider interface agency? Yes, it has good results. So with the implementation of this PPIA program in Mumbai and as well as Pune, so about 351% or 532% of increasing of TB notification from this private sector, which is mainly happening. Okay, and it's also actually reporting the cases in the greater understanding of this TB burden on the ground, it is practically. So next one here is in Gujarat state government also came up with one scheme, that is Chiranjeevi Yojana. Okay, Chiranjeevi Yojana program. So here mainly focusing on engaging with the private providers to increase institutional deliveries. And this one here is UP. So in UP, government came with this Hausala Sajhidari initiative. So this initiative, which is mainly focusing on engaging with private health facilities for the family planning as well. So in this way here, public-private partnership, it is very important in the health sector. So what are the challenges? Yes, to implement of this PPIP, so there is some challenges because there is no proper sanitized care that is mainly seen in the government hospitals and even in some private institutions. So because of some delays, they are mainly leading to the delay in the providing the treatment. And this one is there is difficult to implement. So especially state governments and local self-governments, they do not have proper awareness regarding how to implement this. And even there are very few NGOs, they are applying for this PPSA, but not all. So these are some important challenges that we are seeing. So what is the way forward? So way forward means what are the problems we are identifying, we need to come up with the solutions. So that will be our way forward in the simple terms. So first one here is we need to encourage the state governments, district governments, local governments, okay, to support and to implement this PPSA. And apart from that, so this PPSA, it is a very tendering process and this process need to be expanded. So not only expansion, even people need to get awareness about this scheme. And already recently Government of India came up with this Ayushman Bharat Digital. So this Ayushman Bharat Digital, which can help in achieving this universal health coverage and even quality health care, etc. Right? So here in this program, we are mainly focusing on this digitalizing the country's healthcare ecosystem, and we are focusing on enabling on the creation of a ecosystem for fostering this public-private collaborations. So for this, Ayushman Bharat is very helpful. So in this way, you can think more about this public-private partnership. And next question here is, public-private partnership model in healthcare system will pool in the expertise and finances of private sector and with access and subsidies of the public sector. So here is this public-private partnership in healthcare is a panacea for Indian healthcare woes or not? So try to write this answer in the 250 words. And next topic is regarding working towards animal health. So here we are focusing on this animal health, right? So here why this animal is in news? So here, as you all know that India's livestock population is very much high. It is about 1.6 billion, okay, and approximately about 280 million farmers, they rely on this livestock and related industries or livelihood. So if they are having livestock means, so they will be getting milk products, and those products can be going for this processing of this food, and they will be getting cheese, butter, etc. and cream, etc. right? So in this way here, about 1.6 billion of livestock which is present in India. So apart from that, about 280 million farmers, they rely on this livestock and related industries. So if we are talking about what is the significance of this animal husbandry, so whenever any farmer who is going for the rearing of these animals, so they will provide a source of alternative or reliable alternative income for the farmers. And even if you're talking about dairy industry, so this dairy industry which is like $160 billion economy, and meat industry is about $50 billion economy. So they are having a huge potential, right? And if you're talking about issues of this animal rearing, yes, there is an issue of zoonotic disease, okay? So zoonotic disease, for example, if you're talking about poultry, so virus will be mainly affecting, okay? And if you're talking about pigs, so recently we saw about African swine fever. And in the cattle we saw lumps disease, okay? So here there are number of diseases, that is zoonotic diseases, which are mainly seen, and around 9,500 instances of zoonotic disease outbreaks that are seen from this 2000 to 2010. And health policies, they are largely been human centric. So these are some important issues. So here zoonotic disease means that disease that can be easily transmitted from animals to humans. Okay, zoonotic disease means the disease of the infection that transmitted naturally from the vertebrate animals to the humans. Okay, from humans to vertebrate animals. So more than 60% of human pathogens are zoonotic in origin. So zoonotic means from animals to humans, so we will be getting disease, and sometimes from humans to animals also we can see there is a spreading of diseases. Okay, so even not only the zoonotic diseases, especially we can see from wild animals, so there is a spreading of different variants of seen. For example, lumps disease, okay, and you can talk about swine flu that is seen, okay, and even you can talk about avian influenza, which is mainly affecting this poultry sector, and even we can see African swine fever that led to culling of pigs in Kerala. So these are some incidents that are mainly seen in this livestock development or livestock production. So if we're talking about what are the steps that can be taken. So first one here is recently Department of Animal Husbandry and Dairy, which has set up some dedicated One Health unit. Okay, so it came up with this One Health unit with the collaboration with the Gates Foundation, and they came up with, or they recognized it, the health of people is closely connected with the health of animals, because you are sharing environment. So health of humans will be depend upon this health of environment because of the zoonotic diseases. And even National Digital Livestock Mission, which is mainly helping to create animal pandemic preparedness, and even National Dairy Livestock Mission also helps to create animal pandemic preparedness. Okay, so we are coming up with this animal pandemic preparedness. So we're talking about environment health and human health and animal health, so they will comes under the umbrella of One Health. So if we want to promote One Health, we need to focus on environment health, animal health, and as well as human health. So this is about this topic. And now let us try to discuss the topic of the day. So here we are going to discuss about economy related topic, that is rural banks, okay, regional rural banks, that is RRBs. So to understand this RRBs, first you have to know about different types of classification of banks. So we have one bank, that is Central Bank of India, that is RBI. So under this RBI we have scheduled banks and unscheduled banks. So in this scheduled banks we have commercial banks and as well as cooperative banks. So in this commercial banks we have public sector banks, we have private sector banks, we have foreign sector banks, and even regional rural banks. So in this public sector banks you can talk about SBI, you can talk about nationalized banks, and the private banks you can talk about S Bank, you can talk about ICICI, okay, Kotak, Mahindra Bank. So those are some examples of this private sector banks. And we have here at last regional rural banks. So regional rural banks, which comes under the commercial banks or commercial scheduled banks, right? So if we're talking about some facts regarding this RRBs, regional rural banks, so actually these banks, they were formed under Act, that is RRB Act of 1976. Actually this was recommended by Narsimha Working Group. And if you're talking about the ownership, so central government have 50% of ownership, and state government has 15%, and sponsored bank will have 35%, and this will be very important for your prelims. And we will be also following this priority sector lending, that is lending should be given for the some priority sectors like agriculture, livestock, like that. And which is the first rural bank, that is regional rural bank in India, that is Prathama Gramin Bank. It was set up in 1975. So you have to remember this. So this will be important from your other public service examinations. Okay, and one more thing here is these regional rural banks also need to maintain here CRAR, that is capital to risk weighted asset ratio. This CRAR is nothing but CAR. So it is a ratio between the bank's capital. It is ratio between the bank's capital, and we need to divide it with the risk weighted assets. Okay, so this is called as CRAR, that is CAR, and it is about 9% for this regional rural banks. And this is about topic of the day. And now let us try to see the prelims practice questions. So first question which already appeared in this UPSC 2016, that is regarding Organization for Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. And next topic is about Global Infrastructure Facility. So this also appeared in 2017. And next one is regarding port and the country. Okay, so you have to see which port is located in which country, and this is a map based question. So try to answer these three questions for sure, and let me know the answers in the comment box. And now finally let us see the vocabulary. So first one is open society. So open society, it is a society characterized by a flexible structure. So we are not having a fixed structure, we can have a flexible structure, and we have freedom of belief, so that we can also go for a protest. And next one here is wide dissemination of information as well. And if you're talking about bring means we have to squeeze and we have to twist. okay, twist of something, so that we can take the liquid out of that. So if you're making the beetroot juice, so you will be using one cloth to filter this beetroot. After this, once everything just get down, so you are going to squeeze that to get the extra amount of liquid, that is called as a wring or squeeze. And this one is dough. So dough, it is a Latin rigged ship, okay, with one or two masts. So it is mainly used in the Arabian region. And next one is swap. Swap means nothing but exchange. Okay, so this is the vocabulary. So by this I'm concluding. So today we discussed number of topics, okay, and we completed our summary of the session. But now we had been left out with this Hindu analysis PDF, that is Hindu newspaper PDF. So we are also going to see that. So first topic is regarding Supreme Court calls for appeal to look into the freebies issue. So this article I discussed in yesterday's topic regarding this, what is this freebies, and so how can we invest in the other schemes rather than investing in this freebies. And next topic is regarding military exercise to seal off airspace for 4 days. Actually, what happened, Chinese military on Thursday, they are going to begin the largest ever exercise in the waters of in this Taiwan region, okay, and it's also going to seal this airspace as well. So because of this because of the visit of United States House Speaker to this Taiwan. So this is the one important thing. And if you move forward, there is one article which is about data protection bill. I discussed this topic, and you can go on to the city page. Here you can see 4th confirmed case of monkeypox. So here there is a spreading of monkeypox is seen, so please be careful, and you have to refer about some facts regarding this monkeypox virus. And if you move forward in the city page, there is nothing much important, and the states page also you can leave. And in the states page, page number 5, here you can see rain abates in Kerala, but death count rises to 19. So there is increasing of rains, and because of that, here we can see there is a overflowing of rivers that are mainly seen in the reservoirs, and that led to the flood. And if you move forward in this editorial page, there is one article regarding this Taliban, so you can easily go to that topic. And there is one article regarding this trade deficit. In yesterday's lecture, we discussed about this trade deficit. And in this op-ed page, I discussed about these two topics regarding demographic dividend as well as Indian Ocean's peace and stability. And if you move forward in this text and context, there is an article regarding Al-Qaeda's Ayman al-Zawahiri. So what happened? Al-Qaeda's leader, he was killed in a US drone attack. Already we discussed that. And actually he was wanted for planning and executing some biggest terrorist attacks in the world. And he involved in 9/11 attacks in US. So here you can see one picture of Osama bin Laden. So behind him, he mainly sat, and after once the death of this Osama bin Laden, he became the leader, okay, of this Taliban, so of this of this terrorist outfit. So if you see here, Jawahiri was inspired by this revolutionary Islam of Syed Qutb, and his teaching of this Syed Qutb, a brotherhood associated with this cleric inspired radical generations of Muslims. And actually he mainly called for the liberation of Muslim community from the false laws, customs, and not evenly remotely related Islamic teachings. And they mainly promoted jihad. Jihad, it is nothing but war, okay. And if you move forward, so actually this person, okay, Jawahiri, he is the leader of this Al-Qaeda, and he lost his life in this US drone attack. He is not the leader of Taliban, okay. So he is the leader of Al-Qaeda, you have to remember that. And Jawahiri's strategy, it was like it was as the chief of this Al-Qaeda, he mainly retained it as a decentralized network of autonomous terror finances, and he exploited the Syrian civil war, and he built Al-Qaeda network in the country. And he also exploited the vacuum created by the fall of Muammar Gaddafi in Libya, and later on he also strengthened Al-Qaeda in Africa also. So he used some situations in the advantages of this Al-Qaeda, and he also exploited this Syrian civil war, and even he led to the strengthening of Al-Qaeda in this Africa as well. And there is one article regarding this understanding the provisions of foreign visits of state government ministers. You can go to this topic. And if you move forward in this newspaper, that is 10th page, I discussed about this UPSC meet on counterterrorism. And there is one article regarding India brings 36 from Kabul, Okay, so India mainly went for evacuation operation, and 30 Afghan Sikhs including children from Kabul, they had been brought, and a non-scheduled commercial flight of Afghanistan which mainly brought individuals from Kabul to this Indira Gandhi National Airport, okay, where the help of officials and civil society activists which are mainly seen. So according to civil society sources, it mainly says that here involved in the coordinating evacuation of these Afghan Sikhs and Hindus, around 110 Hindus and Sikhs, they remain in this Kabul, and they are mainly continuously facing some terror attacks. So we need to go for evacuation of those people also soon. And next topic is regarding Gati Shakti University. So if time permits, in tomorrow's lecture I will be discussing this topic. And there is also one bill on energy conservation introduced, so this topic is also very important. And next one is Central raises fair prices for sugarcane harvest. So here you have to know what is the difference between this MSP and as well as fair price, okay, fair price of the sugarcane. So MSP, that is a minimum support price which is given for the farmers, and here fair price, okay, which is given to the sugarcane factory owners. And next topic is regarding the climate, not for climate pledges. I discussed this topic. And this one is man lynched in MP for suspicion of cattle smuggling. So you have to know about this lynching and what is this anti-lynching law which came up with the number of states, and which states they came up with this anti-lynching law. You have to know and let me know in the comment box. And next topic is about UAPA cases, low conviction rate in focus. So opposition members, they questioned the government, okay, in the Rajya Sabha that so there is a low conviction rates that are seen in this unlawful activities of prevention act. So what is the reason? Okay, so even as you all know that data which released by this National Crimes Record Bureau, it mainly says that in 2008 and 2019 2020 as many as 4690 people they have been arrested, but only 149 people have been convicted so far. So you have to know about what are the reasons. And in this 12th page there is nothing much important, and this 13th page you can see US Indonesia hold joint military drills amid Chinese concerns. So this article is very important. And if you move forward in this business page, so here you can see the service growth slides to 4-month low. So it is regarding this PMI, that is the Purchasing Manager Index. So this Purchasing Manager Index which may be released separately for manufacturing and as well as services, and this PMI of services which mainly says that there is a growth which mainly decreased to 4-month low. Okay, so these are some important articles that appeared in our today's Hindu. So in this lecture we had done comprehensively current affairs from the different sources, and we discussed even the topic of the day and also quote, and even I gave you prelims practice questions at the end, and I also show the PDF of this Hindu also. So by this I'm concluding. If you really like this lecture, so try to share this video to our friends, okay, through WhatsApp or Telegram, etc. And one more thing here is, if you are new to this Rathod's IAS Academy, so subscribe to this channel and click the bell icon so that you will be getting notifications whenever we are uploading the video. So by this I'm concluding. Thank you so much.